Hey y'all, it's your favorite cozy girl, Chi the Reality Queen, and I am back again with another episode of Robe Chronicles. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Real Housewives of Potomac, Season 8, Episode 16. The girls are finally back from the Dominican Republic. So, this episode starts off with Candace showing up in Kiarna's beauty and wellness spa. She's there to get a little um, laser away of her coochie hairs. Um, I actually think it's pretty cool because I don't know if we've seen a friend of's business like this. Maybe we have. Maybe I'm just not remembering it. So I think it's pretty cool that they go there. Um, she's excited to do it. She's never done it before. Wendy also shows up, and yeah, they're sitting there. Okay, so this is so random, but I noticed little continuity things. And so when she was the lady who was doing the actual lasering away, she was like, "Oh, everybody has to put on goggles while I do this to Candace, whatever." Cool. And Candace is talking about like, "Oh man, I won't have an excuse to not, get it on with Chris because sometimes when it's not waxed or whatever, I use that as an excuse." So they're all talking, and the lady says they have to put on the glasses. But later on, when Wendy is getting her armpits lasered away, there was no, glasses being worn or warning that they needed glasses. And I feel like that was much more closer to her head than the cooter. So I don't know. It was just weird. Maybe it was just a fake professionalism distant that they were doing, but I don't know what's going on. Um, anyway, so yeah, they do that. Um, and then they are talking and she's like, "Oh, I'm having a hard time getting guests for her little talk show." And everybody's like, "Well, you have a lot of connections. Like, why don't you use them?" And she's like, "Well, some people have non-competes. Some people already work for networks. So, you know, but the truth is, a lot of people call in favors, girl. Call them in. Those people those friends you have, call in those favors and see what you can get. Which it seems like she must have. I have not watched the show, honestly, but I'm going to. I have to find a time where I have a moment to sit down and actually watch through her show because I actually think Wendy is pretty interesting, despite what a lot of you guys think. I do. So I think it would be a pretty decent show. If you have watched it, please let me know what you guys think. Like I said, I'm very interested. I just haven't had time to watch it. Um, then Candace tells Kiarna, like, how she was proud of how she handled herself while they were on the trip. She was like, "You did really good with these women." And Kiarna is like, "Yeah." She's like, "But, I was still really shocked by how, Giselle, when I wasn't feeling well, was the first person to come check in on me and you guys didn't." And Wendy's like, "Girl, we don't want you to think that we didn't care about you." And then they try to show the clip to show that Wendy didn't care. But I'm like, production or whatever producers are putting this together clearly don't like Wendy and Candace because when she talked about bringing them ginger ale and bringing Kiana ginger ale, they try to gloss over that. If I bring you ginger ale, like I said, I love you. I care about you and I want you well. Okay. I mean, if it's Canada Dry. Now, if it's Seagram's, I don't know about that. No, just messing. But like I said, they just blew right past that. Um, And then, but Kay in her little confessional is like, they should have known better, and I like that. I feel like she is someone that is very direct. She addresses her problems head on. At least that's what she has shown of herself. And see, this is where the disconnect comes that her, as a friend of, I know more about her and her character and who she is as a person than some other newbies. But anyway, um, then they asked Kiana like what she thought, and she was like, one thing I noticed is that you really love Robin, but like there's obviously something going on. And Candace is like, "Oh, it's a difference between whatever and a fire being thrown or flame. I don't know." To me, I don't think Candace is wrong for being angry with Robin. I don't think so. But I think that if you're friends with somebody, if you were, truly friends with somebody. Let me say it like that because that makes the difference, right? If you were truly friends with somebody, you have to give them grace. And if they want to give you an apology or whatever, and this is on both sides, like Robin has to be willing to hear out Candace's apology, and Candace has to be willing to hear out Robin's apology. What I think is going on is Robin is letting her little puppet master be like, you're not gonna take that from her, and da 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 da. And Candace is like, well, if she's not gonna, I'm gonna dig my heels in deeper. And it's like, y'all really don't really need to beef like this. Like, I feel like this beef is weird a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. But I'll get into that later. Anyway, so then they cut to Giselle and Grace, and she's leaving for college, and it was really sweet. Um, you know, I think it's a tough moment. I've never had it happen. I have been the kid that's left for college. I don't think my parents cried. I think they were like, good riddance. Maybe they did cry. I don't know. They're African, so the emotion's not there. Um, but I think maybe because they did it so many times before, they weren't like it wasn't as dramatic when I was just like, okay, just another kid going. Um, but I get Giselle, this is your oldest. They're leaving. Um, so I get it. It was a sweet moment. I think that people have said this before, and I do see it. She uses her children as a shield, like because she knows that they're really like the best part of her. Like her kids are so funny and like just a good time, and they seem so sweet, which leads me to believe that Giselle can't be that bad, right? Like we all think she's so terrible and this and that, but she can't be that bad because you can't be so horrible and have good, nice, fun, funny children, right? Like I just don't think that's possible. And so those kids really are what lets you know that she's not the worst. Maybe a little miserable, but not the worst. Um, then, Grace is in her confessional and she's talking about what she learned from her mom and all that. And it was sweet. It was a really sweet moment. I think that watching these girls grow up, right? 8 seasons. I think Grace was like 9 or 10 in the first. That's the thing about those ages. You could really, really see it. Whereas like the women, you don't really see their age like that in the 8 years because Botox is a thing, fillers is a thing, and once you're old, really. But seeing those girls grow up, it's you realize the time that's passed. So, like I said, it was a nice moment, and it was sweet. So, I think that the people who I don't know what type of mother Giselle is. I can't say that, but if you look to her kids and their behavior, you can get an idea. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to say that if you look at our girls and you look at how they behave and what we see of them, you can get an idea. So to say anybody who's like, oh, she's a bad mom or this or that, I'm like, I don't know, because those girls seem pretty solid. This is my praise of Giselle for the week. Anyway, um, then Charisse goes to Robin's house, and I thought they was so cool. But Charisse walked in that house like, oh, this is nice. Girl, you've never been? I thought that was your girl. How come you have never been to her house? That was weird to me because then Ashley walks in and she also acts like she's never been. And I'm like, are these people friends with Robin for real? Or is this like a fake friendship for the cameras? Because I mean, Charisse is the one person that knew her even more than Giselle. Like they have known each other for years because of basketball. But both of them walked in that house like, this is nice. I'm like, have you guys not been here? Like, this is weird when y'all supposed to be so close and y'all be doing plotting dinners and plotting meetings. To not have been in her house was a little strange. Um, anyways, I don't know. Sharice makes a random comment. I don't even know what they were talking about. Maybe I wasn't paying attention, but Ashley was talking about getting massages. And I think Sharice is like, oh, yeah, I had a masseuse come in and give me a massage. And at the end, she was like, do you want a vaginal massage too? And she was like, why would you think that? I'm like, Sharice, Ashley said it. Ashley's a little messy, but she a little spot on. You a old cougar with money. People are gonna assume things about you and what you do, whether it's true or not. So that's that. But then she tells them that she's planning to have a little crab boil after. This is after she tells them about, they tell her about the trip in the Dominican. Very, just very high level um, talk of the trip. And she tells them, like, oh, I'm having a crab boil and I'm going to invite everyone. I'm like, Charisse, do y'all want to give her a champagne flute? Like, what is going on? But I feel like as a friend of, you really can't not invite everybody. I mean, everybody doesn't have to go, but you really can't because you're just a friend of. So it's kind of weird. Why would they have an event at your space if everybody can't come? You know what I mean? But she's like, oh, she's gonna have a crab boil, and she was like, Robin, how do you feel about Candace being there? Robin, girl, Robin, I like you. I do. I want to. But I feel like sometimes the way you behave is like a little weird. She was like, "Oh, don't worry about me. Don't not invite her on my behalf." I'm like, "Okay, whatever." Then Ashley's like, "Well, what about you? Like, how are you going to be with Karen?" She's like, "I'm inviting Karen. Karen doesn't like me. I have no problem with Karen." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." Again, you're the friend of, you probably got to invite everybody. Um And then she says that she's going to invite Jacqueline, 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 Jacqueline. I can't say her name because the way Charisse says it, Jacqueline or Jacqueline. I'm a stop because it, like, I hear it and my ears can't, like, and they take it in, but I can't say it. Like, I don't know how she says it, and it makes me feel like I've been saying the name Jacqueline because I've always said Jacqueline, but apparently that's not it. Can the real Jacqueline please stand up and let us know how it's pronounced? Please make a video because I don't think I've heard her say it, or maybe she has, and I just don't remember. But the way Charisse says it, it just lands on my ears just differently. I don't know how to describe it, but the way the name enters my eardrum, I'm just like, what is she saying? Um, but anyways, they go and the scene cuts to Nneka and she's getting ready for the crab boil. And she's talking to Ike while she's getting her makeup done by a makeup artist. Y'all, that's big because I spent this season thinking that she didn't know her correct shade of makeup. No, no, no. A makeup artist, somebody she was giving money to, did not know her correct shade of makeup. And that's worse. Honestly, that's worse because if you don't know, you're not a professional. Like, I mean, we could joke and whatever, but to me, I was like, I haven't even really talked about her makeup because I just assume maybe she's like me. You don't know what you know, or you don't know what you don't know, right? Like, people talk about highlight and contour, and this is, and you put on whatever makeup and you think it looks good, and then flash hits you, and you're like, oh, I look crazy town, So I really was trying to let it go because I'm like, oh, I'm not going to, rag on that because that's, she may not know, but you're paying someone. And that person should know. That person is now the person I want to rag on because you had her looking a plum fool every time she was leaving her house because that makeup did not match her. It was not her tone. I have seen her run around on Instagram. I don't know if it's because the comments people have gave or whatever, but her makeup looks so much better. Like, it matches her much, much better. I don't know what they had her. What, like, someone tell me what the color was because that was not hers. She needed a shade darker. That's just what it was. Um, and then she was talking about, like, getting ready for her IUI process. And she was saying that, like, Ike doesn't want to do it. And he, and because of the Nigerian community, they didn't conceive naturally. But I'm like, honestly, as a Nigerian, the Nigerian community is very judgy about a lot of things. But what they prefer is marriage and babies. So as long as you have that neck of you, no one, even if they talk, they not gonna talk too much because they gonna be like, oh, look at her, she has a kid, and that'll be it. They'll be happy for you. But she does say, like, I have the money, so I'm gonna spend my money on it. So, girl, do you, boo? I am on your side with that. If that's what you want to do and you can afford it, get her done. Um, but yeah, so I wish we would have seen more of that journey. I think we only seen. I mean, I think the next episode we see a little bit more of it, but like, I don't think it's enough for her being new that we didn't really get to know her like that. Um, then Giselle goes over to Karen's house. It seems like their relationship is still holding strong, and as we all know, Karen and Giselle knew each other before the show. Despite Giselle and Robin being the best of friends, they did not know each other. That relationship blossomed from 8 seasons of Real Housewives of Potomac. Like, let's be serious here. Um, and they're talking, and you know, she walks in, and Karen's making cookies for her, and she goes, "Girl, not cut and bakes, not cut and bake cookies." Like, honestly, Karen has to stay in the lane that she knows, and it's probably not baking. When I seen Karen throwing away that chicken, I knew she doesn't probably cook much. Or maybe she did and she just doesn't cook much anymore, because the way she held that thing, like she even cook, like hold it like someone who knew how to cook when she was throwing out all that chicken from her freezer. But it's whatever. Um, Giselle gives Karen some vitamins. I think it's vitamins. And she's like, oh, because you were talking about your heart health and all this stuff. So I wanted to, like, just give you a little something. And Karen's like, and I have something for you. And it's Don Julio. It's little shots of Don Julio. I mean, well, it's not little shots because she has the big bottle, but she's going to give her a shot of Don Julio. It was really cute. And then, she was just talking to her about the daughter leaving. She, just being supportive because she's gone through it, and it's difficult. So she just wanted to be there for her friend, which I commend Karen for doing. Um, then Giselle asked her about going to Sharice's crab boil, and she's like, "Oh, well, Ray's allergic to crab now, or Ray's allergic to crab, so I can't go and get close to the crab." Now, Miss Grand Dame, why are you lying? We have seen you at crab boils. We have. The evidence is there, and they played it back. So why are you lying? Like, I think not liking Charisse is one thing, and I'm okay with that. I don't think, see, that's the thing that is funny. I don't think she has to like Charisse. Charisse is not on the show. Now, if Charisse was a full time, I'd be like, oh, they need to sit down and hash it out. But Charisse is not a full time, so I don't think she has to like Charisse. But what I don't get is why she feels she has to lie. That's where my problem comes in. I don't want to go, Charisse, to a crab boil in your home. Period. End of it. But saying that Ray's allergic to crab, come on now, Karen, you trying to be like Mia. Mm-mm. You got to tell more truths than that. It's just too much. Then Giselle tells her, like, oh, Jacqueline was also invited because I think I'm so sorry, but I think that in that moment, Giselle was thinking about how Charisse says it. And so unintentionally, she was like low key making fun of Charisse, but like unintentionally. I don't think she even was realizing that she was doing it, because I've never heard her say it like that before, but maybe I wasn't paying attention. But you know how sometimes people say something so strange that you kind of like mock it? I think that's what was happening, but I don't know. Um, but Karen's like, "Ooh, that's gonna be good, but I'm not going still. I don't care." Um, so yeah, she leaves to go to the crab boil. The first person at the crab boil is Robin, of course. So funny. I was watching this with my mother, and she was like, "Ooh." going into somebody's house and having to go upstairs. She's like, that's too much. And I really thought that too. I was like, her kitchen is upstairs. I know the house is big, but like, no, I want all the stuff that I would need to do on the first floor, like your kitchen. Put it on the first floor. But yeah, so Robin is the first one there. Um, and then Candace shows up and she's like, "Oh, let me go get the door." And when she sees it's Candace, she turns around. I'm like, "Robin, you're 47. Yes, you're grown. You do not need to be playing like that." Or I say 47. She could be 40 something else, but I know she's in her 40s. Like, just open the door and come back up. Like, okay. But there's so much tension between the two of them that it's just hard to even watch them on my screen. I'm sorry. I'm at that point. Like, I was on Candace's side. I get it, but at this point it's just hard to watch. Um then it's funny because Sharice has a little confessional and she's talking about how Robin has been nothing but good to Candace. But what I've learned is that Sharice is okay with lying for Robin because maybe of the relationship or what have you. So, I mean, she is on her friend's side, which is the right side to be on, right? That's life. You're on your friend's side. Very normal behavior. Um, Giselle shows up next, which is awkward because now Candace is in a home full of people she don't like. Then Jacqueline shows up, then Ashley, and then NECA comes. NECA showed up not only with makeup that doesn't match her, but with the Grand Dame sash and crown. Girl, you should have left that joke in the 2 episodes prior that it was in, because you went to the Dominican Republic and came back, meaning that it's been a while since you got that sash. That sash should have been up in your house as a little gag. We should have never seen it again. But the fact that you wore it and Wendy wasn't showing up because she had an award show in LA, and Karen wasn't showing up because she don't like Charisse, it just became very awkward and weird that you walked in with that sash and that crown. It was tacky. Okay, let's call it what it is. It was tacky. Um, but yeah, so then she was like, "Oh, um, when I met, they talk about how Sharice is friends with Jacqueline and how she went out and then NECA came into the building and everybody thought they was friends and some weird story that no one cares about because Sharice, you don't have a flute. Okay. But anyways, she tells a story and NECA is like, "Oh, well, Jacqueline told me to be wary of Mia." And Jacqueline's like, "Well, you do. When it comes to Mia Thornton, she's evil." And I was like, gagged, because it's like, y'all still haven't talked. Like, I know that they cool now, like off camera, like off after the season, but I'm seriously like, y'all still not cool? Like, yes, there were some low blows, but you've known her since you were 15. Y'all should have left that trip and been like, okay, girl, like, what is the deal? And got over it. But I think, I don't know what it was for Mia, but I do feel, personal opinion, that she came in really hot last season and she was rah rah rish kamba on the people. Like, she was like trying to have like a moment. And she wanted a moment with Wendy. She wanted a moment with her best friend. Like, I feel like she was like, what can I do to get my moment that I'm gonna be remembered? Now, I like Mia. She a liar. She lie like a dog. She a fat face on lie. But she was trying to get a moment last season really bad. Really bad. I think maybe she thought her contract was up. I don't know how these contracts are signed and what type of increments they're signed, but I felt like she was like, I got to do something. And part of that involved her falling out with Jacqueline. Um, then Mia walks in and she says hi to everybody, including Jacqueline. So it's like, okay, y'all clearly cordial. And they're like, you guys need to go down to the champagne room and talk. Like, you guys need to hash it out. It's crazy that you're not friends. And I think that's one thing all the women could agree on. Like, there is no reason that two people who have known each other for the better part of 20, 30 years cannot come to a resolution. So they go down to the champagne room, and Nneka's like, well, if you need me to come and mediate as the Grand Dame, sit your ass down. Okay. And I love that Charisse unintentionally shaded her, talking about, was this from Party City? Or actually unintentionally shaded Giselle. Like, it looks cheap. You look cheap, even wearing that out of your house. Look, sashes are cheap. They're for bridal parties, birthdays, and stuff like that, where people know you going to have a good time and drink your life away. Like, you look cheap in any other setting wearing a sash like that, because it's not like a heavy sash, it's a cheap sash. Um, and then they're like all eating the crab, and everybody's like, this crab don't have no taste. Robin was like, do they have an Old Bay? Like, let me say this. I don't eat shellfish at all. I don't eat seafood at all. But I have seen crab boils and everything look red. Those crabs, those crabs didn't even look, it looked like someone dipped them in water, made sure they was dead, and brought them back out. Like, nothing, nothing looked seasoned. And the fact that, you know how bad it had to be for the cast to not even be able to pretend like the food was good? Here, you have Nneka talk about one thing Charisse knows how to do is make a drink. She didn't make the drinks. I mean, she didn't make the food either, but it's like, which is also a funny comment, because I do remember Charisse trying to play Karen like she's some type of alcoholic, but I feel like Charisse drinks more than all of them. Like, girl, and that's okay. Everybody lives the life they want to lead, but you was talking about Karen and you drink just as much, if not more than her. Um, Anyways, Mia and Jacqueline are down in the champagne room talking, and the conversation gets a little deep. Actually, I think that, again, it's a good dynamic because they have been friends for so long. And I really hope, now this is just my hope, I'm getting ahead of myself here. They get rid of Nneka, they get rid of Ashley, they bring Kiana in full time, and they have Jacqueline as a friend of. That's my belief. If we really get lucky and Andy is really trying to be spicy dicey, he'll get rid of Giselle too, or maybe Robin. But I think that dynamic needs to be split up to see how the other deals on their own, because I feel like you take Robin out of the equation and Giselle is going to have to talk to you. Can't not talk to everyone, because everybody else actually talks to everyone else. The only person that does not talk to people is Giselle. And that's what I think people are missing. Like, people are like, oh, they don't talk to her and this and that. Whoop, whoop. But Ashley will talk to Wendy and Candace. Mia will talk to Wendy and Candace. Karen talks to them. Robin, hateful, spiteful, yelling, whatever, will talk to them. The only person that actually cuts them off and creates a divide is Giselle. Now, I don't know if Andy is that spicy, if he's willing to do it, but he's going to have to do something to shake it up next season. Um, but anyways, like I was saying, the conversation between me and Jacqueline gets a little deep, and they're talking about why Mia kind of has some resentment towards Jacqueline, and it has to deal with the situation where she was assaulted by Jacqueline's boyfriend, and Mia finds out that Jacqueline never knew. She thought Jacqueline was acting like she didn't know, but Jacqueline really never knew until years later. And so I can't even imagine. And I get it on Mia's end. I get it. Like, girl, we were supposed to be girls, and you're faking like you don't know what happened. And it turns out she really didn't. And so that's really sad, because that little misunderstanding has been carried by Mia for years. And so it kind of comes off in the way she treats Jacqueline, which kind of sucks. But it looks like they kind of came to, and it's funny because Mia's like, okay, well, let's hug it out. And Jacqueline's like, that's too soon. And it's only funny because this is the second time someone refused to hug it out with Mia because Karen was like, no, we're not on a hug basis yet. We good, but we not that good. And that means Mia really must cut deep with people. Um, then they go back. Sharice then asks Candace and Robin about like what's going on and whatever. And I feel like it's such a tired conversation. But Candace exposes that Robin sent their personal text to a blogger. Hmm. Why would you send your personal text with someone to a blogger? And she's like, well, I was just trying to explain why we're not friends anymore. We're not friends anymore. We not cool. She talking crazy about me online despite not doing anything. That's why I don't talk to her anymore. Like I feel like that's so simple, but Robin is such a woe is me type girl. Like she can never be wrong. She can, and as soon as you say something to her, here she is. Oh, I'm the victim. Hit me. You know, she just yelling, yelling. Oh, I'm the problem. Oh, everybody hates. Oh, don't ever talk to me. Oh, I'm like, it's funny because people talk about Candace's crying, but Robin's reactions that are so over the top dramatic to kind of like take away from the fact that she just did something effed up is kind of like just as bad. I think people don't like crying, so that's why Candace is looked at as worse. But the theatrics on Robin, like, girl, sit down and shut up. You are a theatrical girly, okay? Oh, I did it. Yeah, I did it. Oh, okay, okay. And so they're going back and forth. Here comes Sharice yelling, smacking on the table, asking them to stop, yelling for them to stop. I'm like, what? I'm just so glad Giselle was like, oh, Sharice must be drunk. Like, girl, why are you yelling, screaming, and slamming on your table over Robin and Candace? Like, what? That was such a crazy reaction. Such a crazy reaction. Like, she, somebody was like, just Sharice really likes slamming tables, and they clip it back to her in Mexico slamming the table while yelling at Karen, and it was just so weird because it's like maybe that's why Sharice and Robin get along because they be yelling and dramatic both. Like, why are you yelling, screaming, and slapping the table? You're 60. Relax. Nothing is that crazy like that for real. Um, so it's just, you know, like I said, it's just crazy to me that they, going back and forth and Sharice slamming the table. And I just love how all the other women realized immediately in that moment, like, Sharice, you're either drunk and you're the most dramatic person alive. Like, quit. Like, quit it, girl. Um, but it needed to be said because Sharice, no, you don't need to do all that. But maybe she's trying to get her flute back. Maybe because it seems like she be on the sly hanging out with everybody when the recording stops. So maybe she is trying to get her way back in. Um, and then Candace is like, you know what? I have to leave. She gets up from the table. She's crying. NECA goes and chases her out. Shout out to NECA for that. I can give credit where credit is due. And she checks in on Candace. Um, and it's just kind of like, she's crying. She's like, I can't deal with this. I have to get out of here. She goes and she apologizes to Sharice's daughter for yelling in the house. I'm like, oh, wow, look at Candace. That's low key growth for her. That's low key growth for her, right? You got to specify for her. And then she goes and she's leaving and she's saying bye to everybody. And she's like, bye to everybody that matters. I'm like, girl, get on, get about the house. But yeah, so they're Robin was like, I don't care. We don't ever need to talk again and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I don't know. That beef doesn't quite add up to me on both sides. Like, I definitely think Robin is a mess, but I definitely think Candace is dragging it. So I'm just like torn in between, like, I don't know what side to be on or what to feel, but I just know that it's a lot on both ends. Um, definitely a lot. Um, but yeah, so I definitely can't wait to see what happens next episode. It is the final episode of the season. We made it, y'all. It looks like this is probably going to be a 19-20 episode season, but they was dragging. And someone mentioned it on Twitter. They were like, there's no continuity. Like, a story stops and starts and stops and starts, and you don't really know what's going on. And it's so true. Someone also pointed out how Candace's voice didn't match what she was saying when she was like pulling out receipts about Robin, and they were like, that just goes to show how over edited the show is, because they probably didn't notice it or pay attention. But I think it's important to know that a lot of things are edited to look a certain way. So when you have certain feelings about people, sometimes you have to reevaluate them, because everything is edited and you don't know what is genuine and what is not. But this episode was okay. I don't think it was bad. Um, I think now that we're getting closer to the end, I'm just like, ooh, we're getting there finally. So I don't know. Tell me what you guys' thoughts were about this episode. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share this video as far as you can. And I will see you guys next time for the season finale. Bye.